Anora is the new film from writer and director Sean Baker. This movie stars Mikey Madison as the character Annie, who is a sex worker. She one night meets the character played by Mark Edelstein, Vanya, who is the son of a very wealthy, very rich Russian family. He likes her, he wants to spend more time with her, and they go on a bit of a whirlwind romance. But as certain things start to progress in their relationship, they make bolder moves. It catches wind of Vanya's family, and it's a bit uncertain what the consequences will be because of their whirlwind romance. Just a quick warning, this review is a couple months late. I apologize. It happens. It happens a lot with me in particular. I'm never early or on time. But because it has been a couple months and there are certain things I want to really talk about, we're going to do some light spoilers. So we're not going to be talking too much about specifics, but we are basically going to be talking about how the film is set up, how it's written, certain elements to the plot trajectory. So if you want to be completely spoiler free before you watch it, click off the video, and, you know, best of all, go find the movie and watch it, and then you can come back. I went into this movie very excited. Obviously, there's a lot of, positive talk from this movie premiering at various film festivals, like the Cannes Film Festival. I think it won the Palme d'Or there, and also it is Sean Baker's newest film. His last movie, Red Rocket, I absolutely loved. I thought it was a really fascinating, different, seedy character study. It's not like a happy ending kind of deal. It ends in a place that's just really sad, which is very fitting for this pathetic, loser, dirtbag of a character. And I really loved that film. And although I didn't really care for the Florida Project back when that came out, that was a different time for me. I was still in high school at that point. I hadn't really grown into the man I am today, where I appreciate a bit more films than I would have then. Honestly, Red Rocket was so good, I sometimes think back to the Florida Project and I'm like, maybe I should give that another go someday. And I haven't by the time I've recorded this video, but I am always thinking about it because I do think there are elements, even back then, where I was like, this is pretty solid stuff, just for, whatever reason, I just wasn't fully ready to appreciate it yet. So Sean Baker is one that I'm always going to be looking out for. When the trailer for this came out, though, it looked very good, but there was a part of me that was like, I'm not really quite sure what kind of movie this is going to be. The trailer's promoting this fun kind of party vibe that maybe starts to take a turn, but what kind of turn are we talking about exactly? Are his intentions pure, or is this too good to be true, but to what extent could that even be? Is it going to be a thriller, or is it going to be a straight up drama? I didn't really quite know how this movie was going to unfold going in. And the first half of this movie, I would say, is represented by the trailer very well. It is kind of like a non-stop, energetic party, where, like I said before, this whirlwind romance kind of starts up, with Mikey Madison and Mark Edelstein. And Mark Edelstein, by the way, I feel like he's not getting talked about a lot, but his performance, I don't know how much of it is him or actually playing a character, but he is very on fire in this, very believable as the character that they have set up. But he is a lot of fun to be around. When they go traveling on a whim and they, get these friends with them, and it's just non-stop partying and some awkward abrupt cuts to them having sex, and then even that eventually goes from a comedic thing to growing a bit as they get closer together, they bond closer together. It's very good stuff, especially the way they have established the character of Annie in the first couple minutes. She is a sex worker, like we mentioned before, and you kind of get the sense that she is all about fighting for whatever thing that she can get. There's not a lot there. It's not a huge money making business, so you gotta fight for what you get in this community where you have some friends, some people that will uplift you, and some other people who are very catty and nasty and want to take as much from you as possible. So her kind of having this chance encounter with this Russian billionaire who happens to like her quite a bit, yeah, you kind of get swept up into it as well. You can totally empathize and see yourself in the position that Annie would be in. Okay, yeah, this would be a life-changing, fairy tale moment. And then at a certain point, some things start to happen, and it's kind of this little chunk of the movie where, once again, thinking back to what I was saying before, I was unsure what direction it was going to take. Okay, this is a transitional period, obviously, but what are we transitioning into? And I was so surprised as it went on and it started to become clear. This turns into a very funny, situational, bordering sometimes on slapstick comedy, where if the first half is setting up the fairy tale, too good to be true, high, the second half is about slowly tearing that down, coming to, in a sense, where the consequences aren't even very clear at first, but as you go on, you start to realize, oh man, this come down is really harsh, but they make it so entertaining along the way. You have these Russian henchmen led by the character Toros, played by Karan Karagwelian, and he's just so fantastic in this. You know, he's kind of like this fixer, kind of like, you know, glorified like babysitter for Vanya, for his parents. And like I said, in that transitional period, you know, when you can't quite tell what direction the movie's gonna go, and then you slowly start to realize, oh, this poor man, this poor older man who has to deal with like this like millennial like brat with so much money. It's like, it's so goddamn funny. His reactions to stuff happening are priceless, you know, like seeing him kind of slowly himself start to realize what kind of mess this is and like how long it's going to take to fix. And then one of the other henchmen, played by Yura Borisov, you kind of don't know, once again, back to the transitional period, you kind of don't know what that character is going to be all about. Like they kind of set him up like, okay, is this going to be an important character we got to follow? Like there's going to be something here, and it's not really quite what I expected, and it's so surprisingly pretty tender, and very intimate, you know, that character and the kind of big scene that he has with Annie later on, while also still having its moments of very funny comedy, you know, just like him being like caught up in all of this. He's in some ways kind of like a straight man, where, you know, this stuff is kind of just happening around him and he's like, okay, let's keep it going then, while Toros is trying to keep everything together and Annie's being obnoxious. I kept laughing for whatever reason every single time. It's part of the magic trick, I guess. Every single time, you know, they cut to like the next scene, and I realize this is gonna, like, this part of the movie is just gonna keep going. This like kind of fetch quest kind of storyline where they're trying to undo a lot of what was happening in the first half, and every time they cut to like a new thing where it's like they're still going, it's like that thing where you're like, you recognize how exhausted the characters are themselves, and it just adds a whole new layer of like comedy to the film itself. It got like everything they had set up before all of a sudden just flips on its head. Some things that you might have found endearing or kind of sweet, now it's like, oh, well, now I'm, like I said, it's part of the come down. They're deconstructing like the fairy tale, you know, wish fulfilling moment for Annie's character, you know, like, oh, actually, this is not going to work out like you think. Even though there's still a bit of that hope that maybe they can find something. But as it goes on, you're also kind of like, is it though? You know, and it adds to the comedy. But then in like the biggest thing for me, where I was like, yeah, this is a movie that's going to stick with me for a while, is that in these last couple moments of the film, like the last 2-3 scenes, whatever, that's when it really shifts into like this tragic kind of beat, you know? It's really like sad and kind of heartbreaking. Like I said, you know, you spend so much time setting up the party, the high life, and then tearing that down, coming back to reality, and that kind of realization that you're kind of back where you started. I don't know, it's like, it really worked for me. And I just think, you know, our main character, Annie, played so wonderfully by Mikey Madison. They sell it so well, you know, she has like the attitude that they had set up before, you know, she fights for what she can get, but there is like still a heart there, you know, like she is still like a real human being who has, you know, frustrations, you know, she's just trying to get by like anyone else, and, you know, she is not immune to being swept up in things that are looking promising for her, you know, when it looks like a good life is now ahead. And then seeing that crash down, like, yeah, you try to fight it, and then it just circles back to where you were before. It's really kind of devastating. And I fucking loved that, you know? I thought it's a tragic and sad kind of like character journey for Annie, and it sucks to watch. But that is a fascinating character. It's a fascinating journey to go on, and Mikey Madison really sells it. She's been in good stuff before, obviously, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Scream. She gets lit on fire twice in those movies, but she's like kind of this like unhinged, like psycho in both. And in this one, you know, introducing like a new layer of like, she has kind of those moments where she has to like tap into that again, when she's like really angry at someone, but selling it with like this new kind of like shed of like real, like, raw human emotion, like she's a real person in there under the screaming psycho, you know, like it really does work for the better for the character. It's a fantastic lead performance. I just wanted to break that down in a bit more of like a light spoilery discussion, because, you know, this is a movie that I saw a couple months ago. I'm late, you know, you know me, I'm often late to reviewing movies, but, you know, if I'm reviewing it this late, you know, I feel like maybe your conclusion should be, well, you know, clearly there must be something here, and it's because there is. This movie really hasn't left my mind in those couple months, and it's one that I want to rewatch again so desperately. I love the journey, and it's just so well made. You know, there's so many great edits to like abruptly cutting to the next thing, like I said, that enhances the comedy. When you realize, you know, certain things are still going, it's paced really well. As far as like a screenplay's perspective, you already have a great twist on like the story that they're telling, but just everything just feels like it is so purposeful for the story. Like I wouldn't cut a single thing. You know, cinematography looks great, the lighting is beautiful. Man, I just, you know, I really did love this movie. Apologies for the late review. I know Golden Globes, as I'm recording this, are tonight, but I really do hope to see it win a lot, or at least just a good amount, because it is one of my favorite films of the year. It's so unique and so original, and it just feels very fresh with its storytelling, and just having these performers just knock it out of the park. I'm gonna give Anora an A+. Like I said, it's fantastic. I loved it. Can't stop thinking about it ever since I saw it. If you have not seen it yet, you know, you got plenty of time to still do it before, you know, award season stuff. But even after that, you know, if you miss it for the award season, just watch it. Just watch the movie anytime. But if you've already seen Anora, leave your thoughts in the comments below what you thought of it. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.